management is more transparent to the team in terms of priorities and other things. We wanted to achieve higher autonomy or better autonomy at the team level, where teams are able to decide what they can deliver and how they will do it on their own. And while doing all of that, we of course wanted to ensure that the individual team members and the teams as a whole are able to scale up their competencies and skills and are able to develop themselves to be more mature individual professionals and teams as a whole, right? So those are some of the business drivers that we had to start with, where we started looking into how we will go about achieving some of those business demands or challenges. And that's when the safe transformation came into the picture. About as we will go, we will see how our journey has been. But it's not that we always had a thought that we will go the safe route. We did some analysis on our side to see that whether we can stay with the status quo that we had, like the agile scrum based development, and still be able to achieve this. But then based on the analysis that we have done, we did at that point, we understood that staying with the agile scrum would have taken us much longer to achieve some of those results that we were aiming for, or would have taken us or maybe the results were not, may not be sustainable. So that's when we brought in safe as the structure and more of a mechanism which will help us to achieve those results in a sustainable manner, right? So that's the background of where we started with. um, Moving on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Mukesh, you want to
So
cover the three
all good.
approach?
Yes. I'm audible, right? Preet?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
can hear you.
Yes.
So yes, so this summarize, the kind of approach which we had adopted, or as of now where we stand, we have around 1 year experience with our safe journey. So this all started, in December 2018. So this just couple of slides, through couple of slides, I want to explain that what is this 3E approach. We call it as this is nothing but engage, enable, empower. So this is the 3 E's stands for, and we'll just see each of them in detail what E stands for. The first one, if you just go to the engage aspects. Okay, so this is where the transformation from the project focused organization to a product based, or in a product focused organization, I would say. So in a nutshell, we are 9 scrum teams, in around 80-90 people working in 9 scrum teams, which is again distributed across the across the globe, I would say. And then we were working in a structure that more scrum teams are attached to the projects, where a list of scrum teams delivers one particular project, and each project would have their own project scope, as well as the different products are delivered through this multiple projects. So this was our structure, and from there we wanted to change into this transformation we were talking about was completely move into a product focused organization. So the all 9 scrum teams are enabled in such a way that they can work on a common backlog, and they can work really on the product rather than the project boundaries. So basically that's what we were trying to address through engage. So that's the first part. And then how do you enable them? So this is the slide where we wanted to cover that what kind of continuous improvements which we wanted to keep in place, and so that we can change how do we convert a team level agility to a portfolio level agility. So this is where we would also see some of the upcoming slides in detail in what kind of continuous improvements we were practicing to go into this direction, or during this transformation journey. And the next E, the final E in this 3E approach, is the empower. So this is nothing but how do we approach this whole team culture and focus, keeping the team culture in focus. How do we address each and every or and I would say these are different angles where we have looked into, or the angles we had looked into the skill agility aspects. How did we improve the team skills? Like, we had a set of Scrum teams where there are manual testers, those who are converted into automation testers. So how do we, um, uh, fix these angles, fix these dimensions is what this particular slide covers. And of course, if you go to the emotional agility aspects, we did some survey, we figured out where we are, and then we put some practices in place. And the ownership aspects, how do we make Scrum teams responsible, Scrum teams owners of the work which they deliver, and also bringing down some or also the team structure changes also help them to build this kind of decentralized, they made enable them to make the decentralized decision making. So they are like, and as a unit they are able to make their decisions by their own. And also just put up the nice or required dashboards, or any matrices what we have implemented. All of them was keeping in mind that how do we enable this transparency aspects. And how do we collaborate? Like I said, 9 Scrum teams across the globe. So we also looked into the aspects, how do we bring more collaboration between the Scrum teams. So all this have multiple examples, or multiple practical examples. How did we address all of them in the later slides, or when we explain this journey, we will see many of them are fitting to these angles. But in a nutshell, that's our empower slide was, or that was the 3E approach. Okay, so all this 3 approach was aligning to a common vision or common goal, that how do we accelerate our business value delivery. So with all this background, with all this approach in our hand, we started our we did a kickoff with our um, safe journey in last December, and that's what we are going to see in the next slide.
Yep. So as you can see, that's about a year plus since we
Yeah.
have been implementing SAFe, and following slide would just cover some of the aspects of how we started and where we are in terms of the journey. Okay, so let me move on. How our transformation story went ahead is in terms of, as a first step of the transformation story, we looked at how our main priorities would look like in terms of safe transformation. So we of course were going for an essential safe program level implementation. So we were looking at where do we start, what are our main challenges and opportunities in terms of implementing safe. We first looked at, we asked our stakeholders, we did some workshops and others, we talked to the management, both local and the global, and we identified the main areas where we want to address the first, to understand how we go about doing safe. We did team surveys, as Mukesh mentioned in the previous slide, where we understand the team agility improvement needs and also team cultural issues where we must address before we go about safe, because safe is at the end team cultural transformation and a mindset change. So we identified those areas, we started working on it, we did the analysis in terms of what we need to change, we did workshops, we learned from others who are implementing safe. We invested a lot on trainings, we did the entire trained on the safe on specific roles, going through specific trainings like SPC trainings, the safe agilist training, and the PM roles and scrum masters and others. So we did invest a lot on training so that every role would understand what they are stand to gain from safe and how they would go about implementing it. And that resulted into nothing but a prioritized list of actions as the safe transformation backlog, and we started working on those actions at that point. One of the key aspect, or I would say the most crucial aspect of the transformation, was the organization restructuring. The setup that we had pre-safe wasn't effective enough for us to implement the safe. So we looked at the major need of revamping the whole organization structure to enable safe transformation, and we did it before we launched the train, not after. Where we, as you can see in the picture, pre-safe, we had one team where many managers were responsible for different part of the team groups, and that was more or less creating teams within teams. And we moved away from that setup, and we kind of introduced one team one manager concept. So that helped us to gel the whole team, as we see by about a year since then. The teams have started working together as one unit rather than developers and testers and product owners and scrum masters, right? So that is one big change that we did. We looked at also keeping some of the key roles like project management, because we needed project management even in the new setup from safe, though safe doesn't say that there is a project management. In the organization context, you always need some of those aspects which are not defined by the framework. We needed line managers, we needed some specific roles like test leads and others, which of course doesn't is not covered by the framework. But then we also introduced new roles like the release train engineer, program level architect, or program level test leads. So those role changes caused in a lot of turbulence, I would say, at the initial phase, where there were confusion over who's responsible for what, who's doing this bit, who's doing that bit. And then we laid out those frameworks and roles and responsibility very, very clearly to start with. And that helped us. And it's not that we stayed with those things. As we evolved, we improvised on that, and we worked towards making things even more uh, efficient and less complex as compared to what we started with. And that also helped us to reshuffle the some team members to make the teams more balanced and kind of have the decentralized decision making implemented at that level, team level. uh, what else that we did in terms of value stream enhancement? We looked at how our setup would look from project focused to the PI focused organization. Though we still did projects, we wanted to achieve our PI objective so that it can enable the release objective. So we moved from prioritize product backlog per project to a prioritize product backlog across the project, so which is a single product backlog, and PI based commitment, as I said, to achieve the yearly releases. And finally, that helped us to adapt also the release objectives or the release priority as we went about implementing uh, from the PI. So as we achieved the results of PI, we got more clarity in terms of how would that mean in terms of final releases of the product, because we don't release product at end of every PI or within every PI. Our releases happen normally once in a year, depending on the install base and the customer base that we have. So we wanted to still achieve the releases, but then this new value chain of doing it through PIs helped us to align our release priorities also. And finally, preparation was for launch was a very, very rigorous exercise in terms of what do we need to get ready in terms of our launch organization and PI planning. Now, given a choice, we would have taken more time, but then we didn't want to take too much time also and miss the window of opportunity. So we figured out what is the bare minimum in terms of preparation that we need to do to launch the art, and then we inspect and adapt as we go along. And we exactly did that. We had around 4 months of window in front of us, where we first identified the art level readiness aspects, like we need to do certain trainings, we needed to align the PI calendars, we needed to align the team practices like the cadence and story point definitions and definitions of dones and other things. We even engaged a safe consultant who would help us to get started on the initial time. Then we looked at organization readiness in terms of roles, responsibilities, carving out a system team. We didn't have one in place, but then we have a fair idea about what we wanted out of system team. So we did that. We did get started on some of the community of practices to get us some initial momentum on the things that we want to achieve. And then there was a lot of logistical and PI planning related readiness also involved, because we needed a lot of big room setup, stationaries and stuff like that. So we worked towards that, plus the content readiness, right? So we needed to have a backlog architectural roadmap, and so there was a lot of that done. And at after 4 months of preparation in May, we definitely launched as we planned on the same dates as we have planned, in the whole organization coming together, even including the global team traveling to Bangalore. And that was very much successfully implemented in the first PI, and that was a initial success that we also celebrated with the whole team outing. We still cherish some of those initial success and memories from that. So that is how we approach the whole transformation. And now, Mukesh, you can get into more details in terms of principle to practices.
Yes, thanks, Alaukik. So, um, like we said earlier, both myself and Alaukik said, we were practicing Scrum for a while, for a long time, I would say. So most of this most of the core values or principles of agile, all this needed some sort of alignment. So we were practicing many of this into our day-to-day work, but it's just needed a alignment so that it's suits or it helps or boost your safe transformation. So this is what I'm just trying to touch base in a couple of slides. So how did we map the core values to the or how did we boost them to um, help our safe journey? So that's what we are going to see. So if I see the built-in quality, how did we, I'll just pick few of them which we have done. So uh, of course there is quite a lot of text, multiple examples here, but I just try to keep the key ones which we tried. So the built-in quality, yes, we try to put some sort of stop the line, where every Scrum team stop um, developing once they cross a threshold of issues, so that you just don't park your issues, you just address them then and there, and built-in quality as and when you integrate your changes. And also we started some sort of fitness test, which is a kind of the concept behind the fitness test is in every frequency, let's say that in every PI you have a release readiness assessment being done. So basically we will check all the system level aspects and all the um, mm, you know all the performance, all the system level attributes would be verified, so that you have, though we don't have a actual product release in every PI, your readiness for your release is being assessed. So you just get more feedback how ready you are for your release. So that's how we were just trying to address the built-in quality. The same way, the transparency I just mentioned, the kind of dashboards we had put in place, so that the development team and the stakeholders involved gets the real-time feedback or real-time understanding on where we stand and what we are delivering on a day-to-day basis. And also had to set up some oh, of course, this also means that, as part of the big room planning or as part of the PI planning, we enabled all this, the product vision roadmap, as well as, the business vision roadmap, so the team knows that, where we are heading to, or, what is the roadmap in front of us. So these kind of discussions helped us to get both the to and fro transparency established, the, where the business wants, what the business wants, and what the team wants. So, both sides transparencies are established using these exercises. And also this means that we also had to do some sort of alignment. Each team had their own cadences, so we just try to align all Scrum teams into their 2 weeks iteration, so they have a cadence established, and then kind of harmonizing the story points. Each team had their own definition of story points and done as checklists. So this all were like sorted to some extent, but Safe helped us to just take a look and just harmonize them, so that we have a common standards established. So this is what we did as part of the alignment. And of course, eliminating waste. So one good thing I can still see that since it's been a year, every PI planning we see the I&A sessions from the teams and understand that yes, what is that key things we wanted to address. So the retrospectives at the team level and the program level helps us a lot in managing this. And of course, the Safe brought some sort of restructuring in terms of the meetings as well. We had different project PSGs running. All these are streamlined to one. And if I just go to the learning culture, yes, so there is a dedicated IP iteration. So each team gets a dedicated window to focus on their uh, innovation aspects, as well as yes, they do have a placeholder to uh, find out what they really want to improve. So basically, we have established as part of the dashboard, you have a IP achievement section where you can so basically we publish this across the team, so that the team reuse some of them. That's one aspect of it. And also the teams also having that right thought process in the mind, that yes, how do we improve on a PI to PI basis. So we had this, and of course we had this I&A sessions in every PI planning. So the PI planning starts with the inspect and adapt sessions from the previous PI. So this not only just covering uh, the key pain areas, rather this is also an opportunity that of late we started covering the achievements or the best practices which teams does in the INA, so that you have both flavors coming into your inspect and adapt session. So that's another aspect. And of course the team culture. So like I said, we started with this dysfunction survey, and we just took some action on this, and we did some exercises to enhance the team's emotional bonding. So this was another useful exercise. This is also supported by, or of course our safe consultant helped us to get this exercise done. And also we do have an system in place to have those rewards and recognitions more relaxed, or more, oh, it's not more of a formal exercise now as it was earlier. So like Alaukik mentioned earlier, all this at least now things are slightly different because of this dispersed PI planning or a remote PI planning due to this COVID situations. But otherwise we used to have this big room planning where all our rewards and recognitions, even we used to have within API, we used to have common sessions to recognize people. So, and again, the whole it was a good celebration when we the key milestones. I still remember those photographs. So they were. I still believe that we will come back to that situation soon. A dispersed PI planning and recognitions through the dispersed PI planning. Yes, yeah, you get what's the difference. Yeah. And relentless improvement. If you go to the next side of it, yes, so this is where we I just loop this back to the retrospectives which we were doing, the structured RCA methods we are using for the inspect and adapt. So each team presents the details of what the structured analysis they have done for their retrospective points, and this is shared across. And the same thing happens with the COPs established. So this is another aspect of this is contributing to multiple mindsets. You can also okay, did I lose my slide? I think I lost my slide. Preet, can you put the slide back?
Mukesh, I think we lost Alaukik.
Oh, okay. Oh, it
And
was
I think that's why he was sharing the screen, and I think that's why we lost the screens.
Okay. Let me just share my screen if that's possible.
Yep, you can. You can definitely share your screen. Yep.
Yeah.
I can see your screen.
Okay. So where did we stop? So we did talk about the relentless improvements. Yes, so we do have some sort of multiple COPs established, where we where we have that opportunity for the same function people to talk each other, because as part of the team restructuring, the team is as part of the team restructuring, which we talked about in the couple of the earlier slide. The team is a mixture of course, the testers, developers, and of course the um, the product analyst. So these kind of COPs helps us to pull this, or helps us to establish the common challenges these people facing. So this COPs forums quite helps a lot in that area, and also have a kind of SPC sync established, so that we also touch base with other agile release trains in Siemens and understand what the improvements we can see from others or learn from others. So we still use, I remember, this is the same situation we had with our last PI planning, where it was a kind of a dispersed, of course, due to this recent corona challenges, we were also stuck that, or we were also thinking that, how do we do our dispersed PI planning? So this kind of, sync with SPCs and, the common forums where we talk each other helps us to define and, meet the challenging situations. So that's one aspect of it. And if I
Mukesh,
yeah.
do you think you can get into that full screen, because we are seeing it very small?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just put this into the full
Sorry, I also
screen.
got disconnected in between.
No worries.
I'm back. Sorry. So hopefully we continued from that point. Thanks, Mukesh, for sharing this slide. Right.
Let me just put this in.
Yep.
Sure, Alaukik. Yeah, all good. So
Okay.
1 second, Alaukik. I just, we were in the principal slide. Yeah, I'll just finish in a minute.
Sure.
Yeah. So yes, the decentralized decision making. This is, again, we talked about it. The team is self-sufficient to make their decisions. So the team has, the right mixture of people who can make this decision at this moment. So this is, we talked about this as part of this enabling team to make these decisions. And the team have the flexibility to realign their PI objectives, based on the business demands. So this is another aspect that we have tied in, and we are actually practicing it, so that every sync meeting, if the business demands a change, the team have the flexibility to realign to the business needs. So again, we are just sticking back to the whole vision, or the whole the goal for this transformation, delivering business values. So build incrementally with fast learning cycles. Of course, most of us would be doing this. Yes. So this is, again, the kind of, the feedback loops, you keep in place, so that, the earlier you get to know. So we do have kind of, the automated safety nets, plus the fitness test, which I was talking about, the kind of release readiness assessment. So this is, again, returning us the quick feedback on the changes which we make. And the evaluation of working systems. So we do have some sort of practice called, the clinical scenario evaluations, since we work on this medical products, so the clinical relevance of those features are also being assessed as part of the clinical scenario evaluation. So a real-time scenario is mimicked and being assessed from a clinical expert point of view. So this kind of exercises, and also the show and tell. Show and tell is nothing but a kind of a intermediate system demo. So you don't wait until the whole PI to end to take some feedback. Rather, you get some intermediate feedback during your every iteration. So you get a faster feedback from your business owners on the features what you develop. So these kind of system level, as well as the feature level feedback what you get are also helping us to align our priorities and assess our systems, so that we are in the right direction. So that's how we converted, or that's how we aligned our practices into or principles to practices. So that's how we have taken it. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah.
Uh,
Look.
Yes, so we have to rush a little from here. Want to complete the whole slide deck. So, Mukesh, if you just also finish your part faster once I done.
Yeah.
And yeah, my connection was also not stable. So if I get dropped again, please take over from there. Okay, quickly, the results that we have achieved since a year of implementation of SAFE. We did achieve a very consistently high predictability, as you can see in the picture. That's been above 90 percentage throughout, and that's basically helping us deliver on our commitments throughout, which is a good thing because that helps us to realign our priorities of what we can and cannot do. So that's clearly one achievement. Our transparency has been quite good through the PI events, as Mukesh was mentioning before, and the digital dashboard has been helping. So there's a lot of focus on what we can and cannot do, and the teams have been quite up to date in terms of the management priorities, and management is also very clear on what the teams are placed to achieve. And at the same time, our throughput has also been continuously improving. I don't have a result slide shown here, but we are on the right track of what we want to achieve as part of the as a whole program, or what kind of feature roadmap that we want to achieve. We are pretty much on track of that, and the architectural roadmap focus that we had is also helping us to enable the product roadmap. So that's the results from the overall implementation. Mukesh, if you can move to the next slide. uh, there are different controls and measures that we have put in place. As you can see, there are different levels that we are at which we are measuring things. So starting from core level, at the code quality level, there are certain metrics that we have for the sonar. We use sonar cube, so we check some of those blocker critical violations and craps code. So there has been a good focus from the teams and architects on checking the code quality. So that's helping us achieving quality at the very ground root level. Iteration level metrics, there is a lot of focus on the stop the line, as Mukesh also mentioned before. Plus we look at how the features are progressing at a team level and iteration level. At PI level, we look at different and various chart considering the focus of the PI. We look at the predictability, we look at the PI scope burn down, we look at the throughput as a whole. There are certain testing activities that we do specifically in our context. And while doing all of that, what is most important is we also look at whether we are on track with the release objectives or not. So we basically have a lot of focus on looking at the release level metrics, at how our overall burn downs are happening. As I mentioned before, we look at a yearly release. So we look at how the fitness test is shaping up and how our release quality has been at this point of the development. A lot of focus on how our schedule and cost adherence has been. So those metrics and measures are keeping us on track, allows us to take corrective actions once and when we deviate, and helps us to get back on track. So those are some of the results that we have achieved through controls and measures. Moving on. Um, the key feedback has been so far positive. I mean, I'll just leave the slide open for a minute so that you can catch some of the key words there. Conflict to consensus, PI events have been facilitated well, and our both internal as well as external stakeholders are fully convinced that we are implementing safe, and that's paying us back at this point. And that's just some words where it is reconfirming some of those aspects. Yeah, next, please. Right. So where are we at this point compared to where we started? So you might remember the slide initially where I showed in terms of business priorities and challenges. The green boxes are where we have made a good progress in terms of achievements. So we have achieved better business value, continuous improvement, transparency. There are areas where we have made fair progress, including team agility. In fact, I just updated that on my slide. Mukesh doesn't have a latest one, but team agility is pretty much on that fair progress zone. Our teams are able to contribute to different products at this point. Our predictability and throughput has been fairly good. autonomy to the teams have been working out, and we also see the good amount of focus on the individual development. Where we would like to focus more is more on the innovation side, and you will also see that as part of the learnings in the coming slide, where we can spend a little bit more on the innovation front. So that's the general update on the where we are right now. Moving next.
Yes. So in the next slide, we see that the kind of yes, how it's a kind of roadmap. What is our aspired end goals and where do we stand? Like we saw through the presentation, we have a single backlog in the Q3 by 2020. So this is already, all the green boxes are something that we have achieved, and the yellow indicates that what is our the goal, or the upcoming future goals. So that's how it is. So we do have a single backlog. All teams are capable of working from a single backlog, and we achieved, or we achieved a pace, or in a consistent predictability at this moment. So this gives us the and the feedback from our the recent PI summary, the last PI, which was our sixth PI, also gives us the confidence that we are on the right track. The kind of improvements, or the kind of learnings we had so far, helping us to align or realign to the or giving us the confidence to meet the aspired end goals. So our idea, or in our plan, is to have more feature throughput in the first quarter of 2021, and have a high performing mature teams by the second quarter of 2021. So this is the immediate next end goals, or the aspired goals or future goals, I would say. I would not say end goals. And of course, the maturity point we are talking about is the innovation culture. That's the key focus we want to keep building upon, or target as our a future goal as such. So if I go to the next slide, yes. So when I say we had done these practices, or this transformation, the whole transformation journey had our own challenges as well. Throughout the journey, we had our own challenges. So these are some of them, and the slide, or the text next to it, each block gives a one-liner. How did we just try to answer to those challenges, or how did we manage these challenges? So, or our what was our answer to this kind of challenges? I'm sure that pretty much all of us would be facing these challenges during our safe journey, and these are the kind of experiences from our side. So we also we had our problems to again, many of them you would have seen during the enable, or empower aspects, because exactly that's how these are addressed in the transformation journey. So we had to set up communication channels, the organization changes which we have done to address the right organization readiness aspects. So that's I just try to quickly pick few of them which we didn't talk about so far. Maybe the remote PI planning is another one, where later we had to deal with dispersed PI planning, because earlier the remote planning was a challenge. How to get all the teams, at least the Bangalore teams were in a single location, so we had the opportunity to do a big room planning for the Bangalore people, and only who are connecting remotely needs to connect to this big meeting room. So now later this changed to the dispersed PI planning, where the recent challenge was that how do we run a PI planning throughout the, where your 90 plus people are connecting through their own connecting from their own home, basically. So how do you structure it, whether the 2 days intense program works, or what is the preparations needs to be done, what kind of toolings should be using to enable this. So this was a kind of challenges which we keep getting, or yes, we had this in the first place, and we still have it in a different form based on the situation what we are in now. So again, we had our own challenges with the dependency management. How do we track the dependency? At one point, we realized that, okay, we are getting over with it, and we had established our own mechanisms to deal with it. The same with business value assignment. This is one aspect where we are still, I would say that, still challenging for us, that, how do we get the business values standardized across the business owners, because we do have the objectives from the feature side, from the non-feature side. So there are still challenges with respect to the business value assignment. We are still trying to be better there. And of course the facility planning. So of course the safe PI toolkit helped us to get started with it. And and we're still using a custom a toolkit for whether it is SOS or whether it is the boards. So we just fine tune it, or we just customize it based on the needs and the learnings which we had from the recent PI plannings which we had done. Okay, so the summary is, yes, it was challenging for us, and we had our own answers for each of these challenges when they were called out. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I mean, now we are a little over time. Let me just take a few minutes to close the presentation. So key learnings, right, in terms of how we can sustain this results from the safe transformation using some of those controlling levers. So the main levers that we see for us in terms of in our context is, first we ensure the PI readiness and execution. So there is a in time readiness that we must do so that the execution and the PI planning goes effectively. Usage of IP sprint and PI and release status in check. Those are some of the key aspects where we must make sure that the PI readiness and execution is on track. Stakeholder engagement and management. This is more of a, how to keep people occupied and engaged into the execution and planning. We do a lot of collaboration, feedback, and time to time act on that feedback and work towards dependency management so that we can keep those aspects in check. Relentless improvement is a must for sustaining the results. So continuously inspecting and adapting, making sure that the COPs are effective, RCAs of the things that has not gone well, some of those aspects. And finally, keeping a check of the team agility and culture, making sure that emotional bonding, trust, ownership, and some other aspects are taken care of will ensure that the results are sustained. Okay, next slide. Quick do's and don'ts. We invest a lot in preparation. We make sure that the demos are done very regularly, as Mukesh mentioned already. That's a very effective tool, and no presentation can beat a working system demo. We make things very visible, make it very transparent, and keep the status in check, and of course keep the culture in check. The things that we recommend not doing is not customizing too much. We should try and follow the guidelines to the possible extents from the how it is defined. Let's We also don't focus only on predictability, though predictability is important. Only focusing on predictability makes defeats the whole purpose. So we also focus on throughput and value creation as part of achieving the predictability. And I mean, this is a common mistake that many organizations do, considering IP iteration as a buffer. We are very conscious of not considering as buffer, though at some points we end up doing it as a buffer. But then we keep checking time to time that how much time we are spending actually on the IP specific activities. And finally, we don't take too long to learn. I mean, that's just a recommendation, that don't take too long to learn and improve. I mean, there has to be a urgency in terms of improvements, so that this can be achieved in a timely manner and the results are sustained. So these are some of the do's and don'ts from our learning. And the last slide is finally keeping in check that everything or all transformation basically revolves around people. It's not about product, it's not about project, it's not about processes, it's about people at the end. So keeping in check that the cultural shift is your core focus. If culture shift and mindset shift is taken care of, value driven mindset, everything else would fall in place at the end. So those are some of the key messages and conclusion. And of course, staying safe, right? It's not a COVID message as such, but it's just saying that there will be initial setbacks. It's not going to start very smooth for sure, but then continuously adapting and evolving and keeping on top of the things that we want to achieve is basically what makes the difference. So not giving up on first or second failure, but just staying on and ensuring that we keep checking how we can get better and how fast can we get better. So those are some of the key messages that I want to conclude with, and that's pretty much what we had for the summary. I'm sorry that we took a little longer and left very little for the question and answer. If there are any quick questions, we'll be happy to answer at this point.
So hey, Alaukik, so there were a few questions that had come in during the presentation.
Sure.
So one of the question was, was there any specific framework used for defining roles and responsibilities like the RASI metrics or something that you used?
No, we did not use any specific framework. We looked into our context of which roles are supposed to do what, considering the project priorities and the team priorities. And it's more of a heuristic based model only, I would say.
Thank you. The other question was, was there any prioritization technique that you specifically use for your PI plannings?
So in terms of content prioritization, we had different buckets in which we will prioritize from. So our teams don't only work on features, they also work on patch releases or hotfix releases for the market. So the same teams are working on defect fixes, feature development, architectural priorities, test automations, many things. So the product owners basically work with the different stakeholders and prioritize the topics for the team's context. We did not use any specific model or a technique as such.
So another question is, in Agile, we follow frequent releases, but in using same framework, you are following once a year release.
Correct.
So I'm not sure the question is. So I think the question is, why is there only once a release a year?
That's how the business model is.
Yeah. So I can imagine, with the kind of devices that you guys are building.
Our customers don't want to upgrade every month. It's not a continuous delivery and deployment model. That it's not a website, by the way. It's just medical devices for diagnostic softwares. So the doctors don't want to upgrade their systems every now and then. And we also take time to build in the new innovations into our product roadmap. So we don't want to deliver, and it's not our business model to deliver every month or every 3 months.
Yeah. So, Alaukik, this is mostly from my end. I'm just being curious here. So, has this COVID situation kind of changed that kind of a scenario, or are you still saying the same?
We still are on staying on the safe breath. We had the struggle of putting up the dispersed PI planning, but Mukesh engineered the whole idea of how this needs to be done, and we successfully executed our first dispersed PI planning, and that gave us the confidence that we can still continue doing safe even though we don't have a big room planning as it used to be in the past. We couldn't imagine PI planning before COVID situation without it being done in person, but now we know that there is an alternative to that. I mean, given a choice, we would have done it in person, but that is not the choice that we have.
Okay.
And even just to add, we have our own learnings from this exercise, so we know what we need to improve for our next PI planning if it is a dispersed PI planning. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
I have one question. This is Mihir.
Please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I saw one of the slides. The team agility is gray area. So what are the steps you have thought of to take to bring the team agility?
It's something that I mentioned also, that we are doing better in there compared to how we were doing at the start of this safe transformation. We are definitely gaining in terms of team being able to work on different product lines at once, and most of our teams are capable of doing it. We are left with one or two teams where they are not fully confident on working on different parts of the product. So that's what we meant with team agility, and we are on track of achieving it by ensuring that the right packages are given to those teams, and teams picks up the right packages so that they improvise on their scale of operations in the whole of art.
So what are the steps you are doing to bring portfolio level agility?
We do not operate safe at the portfolio level. Our implementation is mostly at the program level, but we do have portfolio stakeholders joining our program planning at a PI level. So we do not have a portfolio level safe agility coming in.
So program level agility, what are the steps you are taking to bring the program level agility?
So we look at it, Mihir, from a team perspective, right? So when the teams are taken care of in terms of their agility needs, in terms of scaling up their individual abilities, we look at also from a lot of people management angle of where the teams needs a specific training, and we try and put those trainings into the IP iterations. And using the line management support, we try and pick some of the right topics for the teams to work on so that they can enhance their ability to work on different part of the system. So that's what we meant with the team agility, and using the right work assignment and the right set of training and development at the individual level, we are bringing in more of program level agility.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So Alaukik, I know we are on time, but you have time for one more question.
We can take one last question.
Yeah. So there's a question about what are the different collaborative tools that you guys are using currently?
Mukesh, do you want to answer that?
So yes, this demands change from situation to situation. Like I said, the kind of so we just retrospect every time. Is it meeting our purpose? Is it so basically it drives from the demand. So like I mentioned, we do have a set of TFS based dashboards which reflects or I would call it as widgets. Now again Microsoft extends this to the boards. So the whole dashboard, the TFS dashboard, works as a good medium for collaboration or for establishing the transparency. So that's the first medium, I would say. And of course, this would also be complemented by the boards which we set up during the PI planning, the kind of show and tell, the kind of the online meetings, I would say, in this context, which helps us to take the regular feedbacks. So yes, it just address the demand by using the best tool which you have in your hand. So that's the way to go about it. And it keeps changing, but it keeps giving you different challenges. So sticking to one tool might not be the best idea. That just need to see that what you really want, and just find out what we can do about it.
Okay. Sure.
Yep.
So thank you, Mukesh, and thank you, Alaukik. Thank you for the wonderful session. I'm sure all our listeners in that we had today did find some value in this discussion that we had today. Yeah, and for all the people who have logged in from for the thing from the Zoom, and we also had a lot of people on the YouTube that we went live on. So from all of us here, thank you very much. And we'll be back next Thursday with another session of the Safe Thursday. Till then, thank you very much and stay safe.
Thank you, Prit.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.